Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. So in this video, I will be discussing about air pollution, its effects and its remedies. So let's begin.
So in this presentation, I am going to discuss about the definition of air pollution and also some of the history and evolution of air pollution with respect to some example from history, and some of the types of air pollution with respect to sources of air pollution, and what are the impact of air pollution on human and environment, and then we'll proceed towards conclusion. So what is air pollution? Air pollution refers to the release of pollutants into the air that are harmful to human health and the planet as a whole. It is a mixture of solid particles and gases in the air, for example, car emissions, chemicals from factories, dust, pollen and mold spores may be suspended as particles. In other words, air pollution is the contamination of air due to the presence or introduction of substances which has poisonous effect. The Clean Act authorizes the US Environmental Protection Agency to protect public health by regulating the emission of these harmful air pollutants, the NRDC being a leading authority on this law since it was established in 1970. Now the second topic is history and evolution of air pollution. So one of the major incidents from history where air pollution is evolved was when the Spanish conquered South America in the 16th century. They took over the Incas mines and soon began to pump clouds of lead dust over the Andes. The silver the conquistadors sent back home made them wealthy. It also made them the world's first industrial-scale toxic metal air polluters, perhaps causing us to rethink the timing of moment when human truly begins to change the environment. And the second part is the Industrial Revolution that play an important part or important role in evolution of air pollution. In the 17th century, industries were made, where industries and factories have a lot of heavy machinery that also pollute the environment. The use of chemicals and fuels in factories resulted in increased air and water pollution and increased use of fossil fuel. What are the examples from history of air pollution or evolution of air pollution from history? The Great Smoke of London or Great Smoke of 1952 was a severe air pollution event that affected the British capital of London in early December 1952. The period of unusually cold weather combined with an anticyclone and wildness condition collected airborne pollutants, mostly arising from use of coal, to form a thick layer of smoke over the city. It lasted from Friday 5th December to Tuesday 9th December 1952 and dispersed quickly when the weather changed. London has suffered since the 13th century from poor air quality, which worsened in the 1600s, but the Great Smoke is thought to be the worst air pollution event in the history of UK. It affects air, environment and human and also the health of human beings and also wildlife. In order to solve that problem, Clean Air Act was passed in 1956, which tried to regulate and practices the clean environment. So the next part is the type of air pollution. Air pollution can be classified into two sections, invisible and visible air pollution. Visible air pollution, as the name suggests, can be visible. The smoke you see over a city is an example of visible pollution. Invisible air pollution. Invisible air pollutants are less noticeable, but they can be more deadly. Good example of invisible air pollutants are sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, and nitrogen oxide. It can be further divided into primary and secondary air pollutant if we go into detail. Primary air pollutants can be caused by primary sources or secondary sources. The pollutants that are a direct result of a process can be called primary pollutants. A classic example of primary pollutants would be the sulfur dioxide emitted from factories, whereas in secondary pollutants are the ones that are caused by intermingling and reaction of primary pollutants. Smoke created by interaction of several primary pollutants is known as secondary pollutants. So further discussing that some of the major significant 10 kinds of air pollutants in the environment are sulfur dioxide. That is basically the major or significant air pollutant in the environment. That is basically from the human human-derived sources that made with the human-derived source, or that is basically anthropogenic source that comes from combustion of fuel that contains sulfur, including coal, oil, gasoline. Whereas the second one is carbon monoxide that comes from incomplete combustion of any kind, malfunctioning exhaust system, and poorly ventilated cooking fires. Third one is carbon dioxide that comes from absorbed by plants during photosynthesis and released during respiration, and also included in fossil fuel and biomass. Fourth one is nitrogen oxide. It comes from all combustion in atmosphere, including fossil fuel and combustion wood and other biomass burning. Volatile organic compounds, basically from human derived sources, it comes from evaporation of fuel, solvent, paints, improper combustion of fuel such as gasoline. Whereas the sixth one is particulate matters that comes from combustion of coal, oil and diesel, and of biofuels such as manure and wood. And the seventh one is ozone. Ozone is basically a secondary pollutant formed by the combination of sunlight, water, oxygen, volatile organic compound, and nitrogen oxide. And the eighth one is chlorofluorocarbon, are basically anthropogenic compounds that have been released into the atmosphere since 1930s in various applications. For example, air conditioning, refrigeration, blowing agent, propellant in aerosol cans. Ninth one is unburned hydrocarbons. That is basically comes from oil, fossil fuels and oils, and the main source is unburned fuel. Another source is from air that finds its way up into the combustion chamber and doesn't burn totally during ignition cycle of engine. And the last one is lead and heavy metals that is derived from gasoline additive oil and gasoline coal old paint. Moving further, we talk about the sources of air pollution. So basically, when we try to study the sources of air pollution, we usually enlist a series of activities and interaction that create these pollutants. There are two types of sources that we will take a look, namely natural sources and man-made sources. Natural sources of pollution include dust carried by the wind from location with very little or no green cover, gases released from the body process of living being, carbon dioxide from humans during respiration, methane from cattle during digestion, oxygen from plant during photosynthesis. Smoke from the combustion of various inflammable objects, volcanic eruption, etc., along with the emission of polluted gases, also make it to the list of natural sources of pollution. Second one is man-made sources. It involves the human activity leads towards air pollution. For example, automobiles and industries. While looking at the man-made sources, we also look at some of the types of man-made sources, which include outdoor pollution sources and indoor pollution sources. Outdoor pollution sources, the major outdoor pollution sources include power generation, vehicles, agriculture, waste incinerations, industry and building heating systems. Smoke featured as a prominent component. The smoke emitted from various forms of combustion like in biomass, factories, vehicles, furnace, etc. Waste dumped in landfills generates methane, which is harmful in several ways. The reaction of certain gases and chemicals also form harmful fumes that can be dangerous to the well-being of living creature. Now the second one is indoor pollution sources. In low and middle income countries, mostly burning fuels such as dung, coal and wood in inefficient stove or open hearth produce a variety of health damaging pollutants. These include carbon monoxide, methane, particulate matters, polyaromatic hydrocarbon and volatile organic compounds. Even burning kerosene in simple wick lamps also produce significant emission of fine particles and other pollutants. Exposure to smoke from cooking fire causes 3.8 million premature deaths each year. Further, we talk about major causes or reasons of air pollution. The first major cause is the burning of fossil fuel. Sulfur dioxide emitted from the combustion of fossil fuel like coal, petroleum for energy in power plants and other factories combustibles is one of the major causes of air pollution. Billions of vehicles run on roads are powered by gasoline and diesel engines that burn petroleum for releasing energy. Petroleum is made up of hydrocarbons and engines do not burn them cleanly. Now the second one is agricultural activities. Agricultural activities include ammonia. Is a very common byproduct of agriculture related activities, is one of the most hazardous gases in the atmosphere. The use of insecticides pesticides and fertilizer in agricultural activities has grown quite a lot. They emit harmful chemicals into the air and can also cause water pollution. Farmers also set the field and old crops on fire in order to keep them clean for the next round of sowing. The burning to clean field is said to cause pollution by releasing harmful gases in the air. Now the third one is waste in landfill. Landfills are land areas in which waste is deposited or buried. These deposited or buried waste generate methane. Methane is a major greenhouse gas that is highly flammable and very hazardous. E-waste is another grave concern involving a lot of unscientific dismantling such as chemical leaching, burning wires and others. So the fourth one is factories and industries. Exhaust from factories and industries. Manufacturing industries release a large amount of carbon monoxide, hydrocarbon, organic compounds and chemical into the air, thereby depleting the quality of air. Manufacturing industries can be found at every corner of the earth, and there is no area that has not been affected by it. Petroleum refineries also release hydrocarbon and various other chemicals that pollute the air and that also cause land pollution. Now the fifth one is natural events. There are certain natural events such as volcanoes, forest fires and dust storms which are natural born and cause air pollution. Now the next topic we discuss about the effects of air pollution on human as well as environment. So we talk about the disastrous effect of air pollution. First is respiratory and heart problem. The effects of air pollution are alarming. They are known to create several respiratory and heart conditions like asthma, chronic bronchitis, emphysema, heart attack and stroke, along with cancer among other threats to the body. Several million are known to have died due to the direct or indirect effects of air pollution. Now the second is child health problem. Air pollution is detrimental to your health even before you take your first breath. Exposure to high air pollution level during pregnancy cause miscarriages as well as premature birth. Asthma and spectrum disorder in young children is very common. It also has potential to damage early brain development in a child and cause pneumonia that kills almost 1 million of children below 5 years. Children are at a greater risk of short-term respiratory infection and pulmonary disease in areas exposed to air pollutants. Now the next one is global warming. That is also one of the effects of air pollution. Another direct effect is the immediate alteration that the world is witnessing due to global warming. With increased temperature worldwide, an increase in sea level and melting of ice form colder region and iceberg displacement and loss of habitat have already signaled an impending disaster. If action for preservation and normalization aren't undertaken soon. So the next is acid rain. The one of the significant effect of air pollution on human as well as on environment as well. Harmful gases like nitrogen oxide and sulfur oxide are released into the atmosphere during the burning of fossil fuels. When it rains, the water droplet combined with these air pollutants become acidic and then falls onto the ground in the form of acid rain. Acid rain can cause great damage to human, animals and crops. Now the next one is the fifth effect of air pollution on human being and environment is eutrophication. Eutrophication is a condition where a high amount of nitrogen present in some pollutants get developed on the sea surface and it turns itself into algae and adversely affect fish, plants and animal species. The green colored algae that are present on lakes and ponds are due to presence of this chemical only. Now the sixth effect is effect on wildlife. Just like humans, animals also face some devastating effect of air pollution. Toxic chemicals present in the air can force wild species to move to a new place and change their habitat. The toxic pollutants deposit over the surface of the water and can also affect sea animals. Now the last and the most important air pollution effect is depletion of the ozone layer. Ozone exists in the Earth's stratosphere and is responsible for protecting humans from harmful ultraviolet rays. Earth's ozone layer is depleting due to the presence of chlorofluorocarbons, hydrochlorofluorocarbon in the atmosphere. As the ozone layer becomes thin, it will emit harmful rays back on the earth and can cause skin and eyes related problems. Ultraviolet rays also have the capability to affect crops. Let's proceed towards solution. That what are the solution or possible solution that we will take on to release that air pollution or to remove that air pollution is basically the first one is use of public mode of transportation. Encourage people to use more and more public modes of transportation to reduce pollution. Also try to make use of carpooling if you and your colleagues some of the same come from the same locality and have the same timing. You can explore this option to save energy and money. Second one is better household practices. Discard fireplaces and of wooden stoves used for heating homes. Use gas logs in the place of woods. Also eliminate the use of gas-powered lawn and gardening equipment. Avoid setting fire to garbage, dry leaves or other material in your yard and lighting bonfire in the open. Try to mulch or compost your yard waste. Use cleaning products and paints that are environmental friendly. Now the third one is conserve energy. Switch off fans and lights when you are going out. A large number of fossil fuels are burned to produce electricity. You can save the environment from degrading by reducing the number of fossil fuels to be burned. Now the fourth one is understanding the concept of 3 R's. That is very important. That do not throw away items that are of no use to you. Instead reuse them for some other purpose. For example, you can use old jar to store cereals or pulses. Okay, fine. Then we move towards the fifth one is emphasis on clean energy resources. Use of clean energy technologies like solar and wind and geothermal is on the rise these days. Okay, the government of various countries have been providing grant to consumers who are interested in installing solar panels for their homes. Undoubtedly, this can go a long way to curb air pollution. Now, the last one is use energy efficiently efficient devices. Like CFL lights consume less electricity than their counterparts. They live longer, consume less electricity, leads to lower electricity bills and also help you to reduce pollution by consuming less energy. Several attempts are being made worldwide on personal, industrial and governmental level to curb the intensity at which air pollution is rising and regain a balance as far as the proportion of the foundation gases are concerned. This is a direct attempt at slacking global warming. We are seeing a series of innovation and experiments aimed at creating alternate and unconventional options to reduce pollutants. Air pollution is one of the largest mirror of humans' follies and a challenge we need to overcome to see a better tomorrow. So further we lead towards the end, that the conclusion of that whole presentation or the discussion, that is basically the health of the public, especially those who are the most vulnerable such as children, the elderly and the sick is at risk from air pollution, but it is difficult to say how large the risk is. It is possible that a problem has been overstressed in relation to other challenges in the field of public health. The effect of long-term exposure to lower concentration of air pollution could be more damaging to public health than short-term exposure to the higher concentration. And that's all from me.